The same. Just gonna mutter. Okay, there we go. Hello, folks. How's it going? Good? Yeah, got some thumbs up, some saying things out loud. Fantastic. Welcome to Your Team is Neurodiverse. My name is Javelin Laurence. My pronouns are they, them, and I am delighted to be here today to talk to you about the neurodiversity paradigm. It is something I'm passionate about, and I get to share it today talking about the differences that our brains and minds have, yeah? But first, let me introduce you to myself. I'm Javelin. I am a certified supplier with the CQCC. Woohoo, yeah! I'm also an alumni of their Out for Business program, which I did last year, which was really fantastic. I'm a coach, founder of Alchemy Divergence Coaching. I specialize in neuro-affirming coaching for creatives. And I do think entrepreneurs are included in this creative umbrella. I have a BA in psychology from the University of Calgary and a postgraduate diploma in coaching and counseling from Rhodes Wellness College. I'm an International Coaching Federation trained coach, getting very close to my ICC, which is quite exciting. And I'm also a professional artist and storyteller. I've been an actor in Alberta for over 10 years now. And last but not least, I am neurodivergent. Some of you will know what that means, and others are here today to find out. But I'm not here to talk to you today about myself. I am here to talk to you about human beings in general, which is a lofty goal. Have you ever noticed that we're not all the same? I have. We have diversity woven into us from the outset. Diversity in body type, diversity in ethnicity, diversity in sexuality and gender. We are all here today in some part because of that diversity. We also have diversity in brains and minds. There's differences here. Seems pretty basic, I know. Our cognitive systems, though, are not one thing. They're not mass-produced computers that function the same way. Some humans function more or less the way society expects them to. We might go so far as to call them typical in that sense. Others diverge from what is expected. Much like queerness in terms of sexuality and gender, these differences can look like many, many things, and they may appear in unexpected ways. Now, this is not a new idea by any stretch. We've known for a long time that we have difference among us. In the history, we used to believe, or some believed, that the Fae could steal children away and replace them with beings that looked identical, but acted oddly and knew too much. There was also some belief that the sins of the parents could be passed down to the children, and that difference in ways of being were a play out of an unknown spiritual conflict that nobody could see. There are very, very many different kinds of beliefs, or there have been in the past, about what makes mind and brain differences. But at some point, people stopped looking for answers in myth and legend and started looking to science, to data, to try and discover these things. Men of science began to codify and name different ways of being and sought to cure them or contain them in many contexts, for the good of society, right? These men saw themselves as the ideal thinkers, and anything that diverged was inferior, broken, or even dangerous. They placed the blame of difference in biology in the environment, or in genetics, or in some cases, at the feet of parents. Not dissimilar from how blame for queerness used to be placed at the feet of parents as well. But at some point, by ingenuity and necessity, and often aided by the internet, different thinkers found each other and started advocating for an idea. This idea was revolutionary and is still uncomfortable for many to this day. And the idea is that diversity of thought, of mind and brain, of cognition, is no better or worse than any other way of thinking or being, though it's often disadvantaged in systems that were not originally built for them. This new idea stood in direct opposition to the accepted belief that all ways of being that diverged sufficiently from the norm were expressions of pathology, of wrongness or illness, yeah? Now, this new idea said that that's not the case, that there's no one best way, but all deserve to have their needs met. Now, this is the neurodiversity paradigm, this belief or this way of approaching the world. It was originally coined by a social scientist named Julie Singer in 1998. The neurodiversity paradigm is this different way of thinking about our cognitive, neurological, and thinking differences, which frames no one way as better or worse than the others, but recognizes that some are closer to power than others. Around the same time in 2000, the term neurodivergent was also coined by an autism rights activist named Kassian Asasumasu. Humans whose cognitive neurological ways of being diverge sufficiently from the norm are considered neurodivergent. Now, this is not a medical term. You can't be diagnosed neurodivergent, though many things that you can be diagnosed with are qualified as neurodivergent. And I lost my place. Neurodivergence is instead a socio-political identity, yeah? Not dissimilar from queerness in that sense. The identity positions us or recognizes that in society we are different from the neuronormative standards that are around us and often disadvantaged due to this difference. When humans gather in groups, they can be in groups of humans that have a single neurotype. This singular neurotype group would not be neurodiverse. But when groups gather together and represent multiple neurotypes, or brains, differences, minds, that group is considered neurodiverse. So I would hazard a lot of money that we're sitting in a room that is neurodiverse right now. I would also hazard that your team is neurodiverse. Whoever you work with, live with, or share community with is probably neurodiverse too. Most people assume when I say neurodivergent that I'm referencing one of two things, specifically autism and ADHD. Now, this is true, autism and ADHD do exist underneath the neurodivergent umbrella, but it is too limited to say that they are the only things that exist under the neurodivergent umbrella. I don't use neurodivergent as a euphemism for these things, okay? If I mean autism, I'm gonna say autism. If I mean ADHD, I'm gonna say ADHD. Rather, this umbrella includes all kinds of different ways of beings, including mental illness, developmental experiences, and things that can be acquired throughout the course of your life as well, yeah? Looking at this slide, I have a picture here of the neurodivergent umbrella, which was, I'm gonna stay there, created by Sunny J. Wise, who's a lived experience educator out of Australia. They are very clear when they talk about the umbrella that it is expansive and has room for all types of being. I have a question for you. You don't have to answer out loud. Do you see yourself up here? There's a lot of acronyms, I know, and not everybody may know what they mean. You may also see family members up here, friends, colleagues. I would hazard a guess that whether you know it or not, everybody sees someone they know up there, yeah? Now, this socio-political identity, neurodivergent, is starting to gain more awareness. People all over the place are either starting to recognize their neurodivergence for the first time or are starting to recognize that their experience is natural and in many ways ordinary, that they're not alone in that experience, okay? According to October Health, this first statistic here, 10.83% of Canadians are neurodivergent. Now, I'm going to guess that this is a conservative estimate and that it doesn't include everything in the umbrella that we just talked about, okay? But this conversation is also specifically relevant to us here in the room because of the overlap between neurodivergence and queerness. 30 to 70% of neurodivergent people identify as queer in some way. And further than that, autistic humans are 3 times more likely to identify as gender diverse as the regular population. Now, as an autistic person, I don't find that terribly surprising. Gender expectations are social concepts, and I don't have the strongest grasp on those. So, not surprised at all. There is so much overlap between queerness and neurodiversity that Dr. Nick Walker coined the term neuroqueer to describe people who are going on the journey of exploring how their neurodivergence and queerness overlap, the way that those things interact with each other and influence each other. Gender diversity and neurodivergence tend to go hand in hand. We as a queer collective are more neurodivergent than the general population. Abandoning any part of our group to assimilation is a betrayal, I think, of our queer history. We are here at this conference today because we all share a goal of seeing and supporting queerness in industry, in work. We're championing our rights to make a life and make a living that has space for all of who we are. This goal, I would propose, is not accomplishable if we don't also make space for neurodivergence. Yeah? So how do we make good on this support? One path is through accommodation, making space for everybody, for different ways of thinking and being, different minds and brain systems. Now, I want to tell you a story for this one, which is about the introduction of curb cuts. Does anyone know what a curb cut is? Yeah, a couple of hands are going up. These are the dips in the sidewalk that connect sidewalks to crosswalks, those sorts of things. Decades ago, urban planners began including these curb cuts into their paving of sidewalks. These dips in the edge of concrete that connected the crosswalks to the sidewalks were fiercely advocated for by physically impaired folks who required the use of wheelchairs or other mobility aids. Sidewalks with that right angle were inaccessible to them. Now, this advocacy primarily happened in Berkeley in California, or at least that's historically where we have it centered, where students push tirelessly for the right to access spaces like this, where higher learning takes place. Something really interesting happened, though, when they decided to start including these curb cuts, and that was that the accommodation made traveling by sidewalk better for more than just the group that they had targeted initially. Humans with canes and walkers, for whom stepping up was an extra burden, were aided. Parents with strollers and wagons for their children were also aided. Delivery workers with dollies and those sorts of things. Basically, anybody that had anything that rolled along the ground were supported by these curb cuts. This was so impactful that it's now actually called the curb cut effect, when an accommodation makes the world better for more than just the group it is intended for. I propose that the exact same thing can be true for neurodivergence. Things like giving clear written instructions in plain language, or lessening the sensory load on people by moving away from overhead lighting, which is of the devil, or instituting flexible work hours. Yeah, there we go, some applause for that. These things can help everybody. Now, I can't speak for your specific circumstance. My neurodivergence also makes it very difficult to make generalization statements without feeling like I am possibly leading you astray because I don't know the details of your situation. So shifts in the way that your team in particular must be made in consultation with your actual team, the neurodivergent humans who are sitting in the room with you. Nothing about us without us to draw from disability justice nomenclature. Instead, I will ask you, what are you doing currently to ensure that your team has everything they need to succeed? When you ask, what do you need, are you prepared to actually listen to the response? And if your neurodivergent team members aren't sure of what they need, are you prepared to journey with them as they figure that out? What accommodations are you avoiding because it would mean doing things differently when they could be the way forward for everyone? Now, I've got two final thoughts to conclude things. I am precisely where I thought I was going to be. I did time it ahead of time. My first thought is for all the neurodivergent humans in the room, and I'm going to hazard a guess that that's most of us. I really hope that you take this to heart. My sibling in neurotype, your neurodivergence does not make you bad, stupid, wrong, or broken. Full stop. That's one thought. For everyone else, take this as an invitation to start seeing the difference in the way we think as being yet another expression of our diversity as humanity. We are asked to work with that diversity instead of against it, to assume competence, and to fight for liberation for everyone in our quest for liberation for ourselves. In the words of Lila Watson, if you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come here because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Thank you.